Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday morning, September the 5th. A lot of topics I'd like to cover this morning. First of all, we'll hit the tropics. There are a couple of different waves out there in the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. We'll have to monitor closely over the next several days. In addition to that, we have the end of the dry spell in the Mid-Atlantic region last night with the arrival of a cold frontal system that tended to weaken as it moved farther and farther to the south and east. There will be a secondary cold front to arrive in the Mid-Atlantic region late Saturday night, bringing with it another round of showers and thunderstorms. Prior to that, there was no rain at all for at least a couple of weeks. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Again, that dry spell ended last night, and another round of showers and storms coming late Saturday night. Meanwhile, there are certain parts of the country that will likely be impacted by severe weather later today into tonight. The northern plains, upper Midwest, in the grips of a very chilly air mass for this time of the year. Already seeing some near record low temperatures this morning. Certainly there will be numerous record lows or near record lows by tomorrow morning across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, into the Great Lakes. That chilly air mass for this time of the year expands into the Mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. on Sunday, following the passage of that second cold frontal system on Saturday night. And indeed, it will be comfortably cool in the northeastern part of the nation Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We'll also touch upon the latest on the monsoon season out in the southwestern states. First of all, let's take a look at the tropical scene. No named tropical storms yet, but it looks like this front-running tropical system will very likely become a named tropical storm. By the way, the Labor Day weekend featured no named tropical storms or hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin for the second year in a row. We haven't had back-to-back Labor Day weekends without any tropical storm or hurricane since 1991, 1992 time period. So indeed, it's quite unusual to have no tropical storms this time of the year. This is the front-running tropical system, and it has a very good chance of becoming a named tropical storm. I believe the next one will be Gabrielle. It is a very slow mover, and it is encountering some dry air. All this orange shading here, the red, represents dry air that moved from the northern part of Africa, the Sahara Desert region of northern Africa, into the tropical Atlantic Ocean. It is an inhibiting factor for intensification. So for the next couple of days, that will play some sort of a inhibiting factor in the intensification prospects for this particular system. However, beyond that, it looks like environmental conditions will be quite favorable. Looks like it'll move basic west to northwest direction and have an interaction with the island chain here on the eastern end of the Caribbean Sea later next week. Again, it is a slow mover, and certainly it can ultimately impact the Bahamas, maybe even Florida. It's too early to say yet whether it'll curve away from the east coast, but with this beginning of quite a southern path here, it certainly kind of increases the odds of it having an impact in places like the Bahama Island chain here, potentially eventually Florida as well. So this is something we'll keep an eye on. Another impressive looking tropical wave right on its heels here. This, by the way, is the west coast of Africa. So that system has exited off of west coast of Africa, and it in some ways it's looking more impressive this morning on satellite imagery as the front-running system here, but so this is something we'll also monitor over the next several days. Certainly it looks like we'll have a decent amount of activity approaching the middle part of September, and of course the Atlantic Basin tropical season tends to reach a climatological peak right around the middle part of September. So two waves to monitor closely here over the next several days. That prior map, by the way, came from the University of Wisconsin's tropical website at CIMSS. Here's a look at the possibility of severe weather later today into tonight, as depicted here by NOAA's Storm Prediction Center. There were a few strong thunderstorms last night that made their way all the way into the Mid-Atlantic region, even into the I-95 corridor region. The Eagles-Cowboys game was delayed for a while because of lightning strikes nearby the stadium in South Philadelphia. Later today and tonight, the area from the Ohio Valley down across the Tennessee Valley, maybe even the lower Mississippi Valley region, can experience some strong to severe thunderstorms. Now we go into the day on Saturday, and that area shifts to the I-95 corridor region, really all the way from D.C. to New York City to Boston, and that will be associated with that second cold frontal system that will be working its way south and east across the Great Lakes later today and tonight, and then reaching the eastern states later tomorrow night. Again, this second frontal system can bring another round of showers and thunderstorms to the Mid-Atlantic region, to the northeast U.S. By the way, all of which will be quite welcome indeed, because the last few weeks have been very dry in this part of the nation. But the dry spell was broken last night, and another round of rain coming to this part of the nation. And indeed, there can be some strong thunderstorms in the mix for places like D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, late tomorrow and tomorrow night. Now let's take a look at the forecast from last night's zero-Z run of the GFS for total precipitation over the next 10 days. And a couple areas I really want to highlight here. First of all, another round of showers and thunderstorms coming to that I-95 corridor region produces some decent rainfall amounts late tomorrow night. Notice also quite a healthy area of rainfall here right along the southeast U.S. coastline and just to its south and east. And we talked about this in Wednesday's video discussion. There's a very impressive boundary zone that will set up right along the east coast, especially the southeast coastline, early to middle part of next week, and it's going to come awfully close to be able to produce some decent rainfall along the eastern seaboard. I think that's a 50-50 shot that some of this decent rainfall kind of ends up moving a little bit farther to the west than is depicted here, maybe impacting the coastline region from the Carolinas into the Mid-Atlantic region. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we look through the surface forecast maps. A lot of monsoonal moisture out over the Four Corners region. There is a tropical system sitting off Baja California. Originally, I thought that would cut to the north and east and throw in some tropical moisture in addition to the monsoonal moisture. Looks like this will stay put here. So most of this rainfall here will be just your conventional monsoonal moisture. By that I mean a flow of humid air from the eastern Pacific makes its way into the Four Corners states. And so a decent rainfall amounts, even without that tropical moisture, depicted here for the next several days in places like New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. Well, let's walk through last night's zero-Z run of the GFS. And first of all, we're looking at 850 millibar temperature anomalies here. Very impressive outbreak of chilly air for this time of the year. Several areas this morning are reaching near record lows out across the northern plains, the upper part of the Midwest, way below normal temperatures here. You take a look at the scale here, and we're talking some 15 to 20 degrees below normal for the early part of September. Now we'll move forward here in time, and it slowly works its way to the south and east. Here we go into the day on Saturday. Doesn't take much imagination to figure there's a frontal system right in this area right here as of early Saturday. Indeed, that is the front that can produce some severe weather later tomorrow night in the I-95 corridor region. We'll go out a little bit farther in time, and here we go. By tomorrow night, this is when that next frontal system makes its way to near the eastern seaboard, bringing another round of showers and storms to places like D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, even up into Boston. And it will take the passage of that cold front to finally allow that cold air mass for this time of the year to work its way into the coastal sections of the Mid-Atlantic and the northeast U.S. By the time we get to Sunday afternoon, it will be comfortably cool along the I-95 corridor region with temperatures quite a bit below normal. Again, expect some near record lows or even record lows tomorrow morning, all the way from northern plains, the upper Midwest, to the Great Lakes region, and some of that may expand to the east by the time we get to the weekend, by Sunday morning, as that cool air mass shifts to the east. We'll go out a little bit farther in time. Certainly, it looks like Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday will be below normal temperature-wise across much of the Mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. It does turn warmer than normal out across the eastern Rocky Mountain states, the central and northern plains, and yet again, another cooler than normal air mass pushes in from the eastern Pacific into California and Washington and Oregon by the time we get to the early and middle part of next week. We'll just kind of quickly go through days after that. Here we are all the way out to next Friday. Another chilly air mass pushes into the northeast U.S. From Canada, and then tends to become warmer by the time we get to the middle of the month. Here we are across the nation, I'm talking about. Here we are by the 14th of September. Quite a bit of above normal temperatures here now, expanding from the middle of the country into the east, and here we are all the way out to the 16th of September. More of a look of warmer than normal conditions across the continental U.S. by the time we get to the middle of the month. Now let's take a look at the all-important 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps, again using the 0Z run of the GFS. All these maps, by the way, from tropicaltidbits.com. An unusually strong upper-level trough centered over the south-central part of Canada, with its influence all across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, again associated with that well below normal air mass for this time of the year. Wednesday's video discussion, I talked about the likelihood for strong upper-level ridging to return to the southeastern part of Canada. It's always a red flag to me this time of the year whenever you see strong upper-level ridging over southeastern Canada, because it tends to allow for tropical systems to undercut that ridge way down in the southwestern Atlantic, potentially having an impact in places like the Bahamas or Florida, the Gulf region, even down in the Caribbean area. We'll see here by the time we get to the middle of the month that indeed there will be a strong upper-level ridge forming over the southeastern part of Canada. So it's one of the reasons why we have to closely monitor those two tropical waves in the eastern Atlantic. Here we go through the upcoming weekend. Still a lot of upper-level trough extending all the way from Hudson Bay into the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and it stays below normal temperature-wise. And then we get into the middle part of next week, and we'll see ridge starting to pop up here. But that's not the main ridge of interest to me. That's kind of a temporary thing, and then another upper-level trough dives south and east into New England by the end of next week. This is all the way out now to a week from right now, next Friday, September the 12th. And then we start to see that upper level ridge depicted here, by the way, in orange here. These are higher heights than normal, tend to be associated with higher pressures than normal, and indeed expanding, intensifying into the southeastern part of Canada. This is right at mid-month, September 15th time frame. So this is kind of sending a signal to me to watch out for this tropical system here. And by the way, this is a reflection by the middle of the month, September 16th time frame, of that first tropical wave. Whether it ends up that far to the south over Cuba, just too early to say, but certainly with a ridge starting to form here, or at least more often than not, we see this ridge here by the middle of the month. Watch out for the possibility of some of these tropical waves here moving, undercutting that ridge and moving from the east to the west. So really the Bahamas, Florida, all this area right here, we have to kind of be on guard here with the potential of this strong ridge to develop over the southeastern part of Canada. Again, I'm talking about the middle of the month of September. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps from the 0Z run of the GFS. And last night was a beautiful rain event for the Mid-Atlantic region, breaking that dry spell. Beautiful unless you were at the Eagles-Cowboys game where there was about an hour delay because of lightning strikes nearby. But that frontal system is weakening, moving away, and we have a second front here. By the way, you see some blues showing up here. That represents snow, and I saw an unconfirmed report that there was actually some snow all the way in the upper part of Michigan during the past couple of days. That is, of course, early for this time of the year. But here we go into the latter part of Saturday. Right here, we have a frontal system right in this area right here. It tends to become more activated as it slides to the south, and he's kind of the opposite of last night's front. Last night's front was certainly strong. It was strong enough to produce some decent downpours in the Mid-Atlantic coastal region, the I-95 region, but it was, in general, a weakening frontal system, whereas tomorrow's frontal system will actually be kind of strengthening as it moves to the south and east. And again, it could produce some decent downpours late tomorrow night, maybe even some strong thunderstorm activity across along that I-95 corridor region, all the way up to Boston and down to D.C., Richmond, and those areas here. And here we go into the morning on Sunday. That front finally works its way off the eastern seaboard, and that chilly air mass that initially is confined to the northern plains, upper Midwest Great Lakes, finally slides south and east into the Mid-Atlantic region. Probably jacket weather, certainly by Sunday night in the Mid-Atlantic region, but Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, comfortably cool, cooler than normal conditions in the Mid-Atlantic region in the northeast U.S. Now, we'll go forward in time here. This high-pressure system, which had its origins way up there in central Canada, moves over the Ohio Valley by the latter part of the weekend, the early part of next weekend. Again, comfortably cool, dry weather for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday in this part of the nation. Now, here is that coastal boundary zone that I really want to watch closely here over the next several days. There's a kind of an inverted trough, even a little bit sign of a low pressure area right in this area right here. And I think the pattern is such that we have to watch this. This rainfall could back up to the west, the northwest a little bit here and have an impact in places along the eastern seaboard. You can see right here some of its moisture is already backing up into the Carolinas here by the middle part of next week, with this high moving off the coast. We'll have to watch this. Again, this is now the middle of next week, next Wednesday. Nice coastal boundary zone right here, and a lot of moisture just ready to be pushed back to the north and west. Something we'll have to watch for. Certainly something we can hope for in the Mid-Atlantic region, where it's been very dry over recent weeks here. And again, a little bit of a low here depicted here, and this is something I think is a reasonable scenario here for later next week. We'll have to watch this area again by the middle and latter part of next week. We'll go out a little bit farther in time. That finally moves away. We have another cool shot here crossing the Great Lakes and reaching the northeastern part of the nation by next Friday. This is yet another comfortably cool air mass for this time of the year headed into this part of the nation. This is a week from right now, next Friday, September 12th. So a lot of topics covered this morning, from the tropics to monsoonal moisture in the southwestern states, widespread impressive cool air for this time of the year up across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region. All that slides south and east over the weekend into the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. Another round of showers and storms for the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. later tomorrow night. And watch out for the possibility of some severe weather later today. Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, into the lower and middle parts of the Mississippi Valley region. That's it for now. For ArcFieldWeather.com, this is the meteorologist Paul Dorian.